It appears as though King Charles is not doing well. He was recently diagnosed with cancer. He started off the year undergoing a surgery for some prostate issues that he was having. And now, according to the Daily Beast, there are certain plans going around in order to prepare for the king's funeral. This is a very, very serious and very touchy topic. So I want to read the article as it is to not mince words or anything like that and not cause any sort of confusion. And then together we are going to discuss it, okay? So again, this story is coming from the Daily Beast. They've got multiple sources who have allegedly laid eyes on the funeral plans for King Charles. And it's just rather unfortunate because this man, he had been prince. I think he was like the longest running, prince as he was awaiting to be the heir. And now he's finally the heir. And a year and a half later, all of a sudden, what happens? Or just a year later, cancer, major surgery, and now apparently it's not looking good, his prognosis. So let's take a look at what it is that they had to say. The author's name is Tom Sykes, and the preview says, multiple sources tell the Daily Beast that officials are reviewing copies of a several hundred-page document entitled, quote, Operation Menai Bridge, the code word for King Charles's death. Again, very, very touchy, very sensitive article, you guys. Let's get into it. It's the question everyone in British society and in the corridors of power is thinking, but nobody will publicly ask, let alone answer. Just how sick is King Charles III? The chatter that King Charles is significantly more unwell than his aides are letting on is proliferating in British society. Speaking to friends of the king in recent weeks about his health, the most common response is a lowering of the voice by half an octave or so, followed by the somber, drawn-out pronouncement, it's not good. His officials didn't respond to formal requests for comment on the matter from the Daily Beast. To be clear, his team have made it very clear since the king disclosed his cancer diagnosis earlier this year in an unprecedented act of royal transparency that they wouldn't be providing a running commentary on his health. The king has never said what specific type of cancer he's been diagnosed with, apart from to say it was not prostate cancer. He's understood to be making regular visits to London for radiotherapy treatment, which can be used to treat many different types of cancer. Of course, were Charles a private individual, his health would be nobody's business but his own, but he is the leader of a hereditary monarchy, a head of state who can only be removed by death or by abdication, but that doesn't seem likely to happen given the late Queen Elizabeth's precedent. Much as his office may not wish to acknowledge it, his prognosis is very much a matter of public interest. It is certainly preoccupying some individuals in certain branches of government. The Daily Beast has been told, for example, that not only are Charles's funeral plans being regularly updated, but that a document reviewing what went well after the Queen's funeral and what could be done sorry, I'm a little shook. What could be done better next time a monarch dies? A kind of lessons learned crossed with a scorecard, the most esoteric of business reviews, is circulating in Whitehall. The government department responsible for state funerals, the Cabinet Office, declined to comment on claims that the Operation Menai Bridge, as Charles's funeral plan is codenamed, document is being regularly updated, but again emphasized that making no comment on such plans was routine. Friends of the family and insiders are genuinely distraught at the prospect that the UK could lose its king far sooner than any had imagined, but they are trying to stay positive. One old friend of the family, for example, told the Daily Beast, "Of course, he is determined to beat it, and they are throwing everything at it. Everyone is staying optimistic, but he really is very unwell, more than they are letting on." The same source told the Royalist that the late Queen Elizabeth was dying of bone marrow cancer in the months before she died, which was subsequently confirmed by royal friend and biographer Giles Brandreth. Compounding the sense of gloom, multiple sources have told the Daily Beast that officials are now regularly reviewing copies of the several hundred-page Menai Bridge document. All royal family members have bridge-based code words to be used at their death. Queen Elizabeth's death plan was famously Operation London Bridge. Menai Bridge is a dramatic suspension bridge that connects the island of Anglesey with the Welsh mainland. While the sources all emphasize that the notes are routinely reviewed by the palace and the military, one source, a former staffer who retains active links with serving courtiers, said, quote, "The plans have been dusted off and are actively being kept up to date. It's no more than what you would expect given the king has been diagnosed with cancer, but the circulation of them has certainly focused minds." Another source who knows a senior official involved in the planning of royal funerals said, "Of course, they are looking at every aspect of Menai Bridge. The Queen's funeral went like clockwork and set a high bar. It's not an emotional thing, it's a job, one taken very seriously. And understandably, no one plans to get caught out." A military source said that the plans were kept under constant review, but that it would be, quote, "absurd to read anything into that fact." "Planning for the worst is what the military do," they said, adding, "You've got to remember the scale of this thing. The Household Division under Major General James Bowder take the lead. That is 7 regiments of guards. Then you have the entire London district, the Territorial Army regiments, and the Royal Horse Artillery. That's before you get to the Navy or Air Force. Charles was closely associated with the Parachute Regiment for years, so they will be involved. That's just the ceremonial end. Then you need a giant security operation because every VVIP on the planet is there. We're talking everything from missile defense to guarding against a lone wolf attack. The whole thing goes from flash to bang in under 2 weeks, which means every aspect of it needs to be meticulously planned in advance. Serious planning for Charles's funeral began the day after they buried the Queen. Oh! Is this, imagine that you're burying your mother, you're mourning it. They're like, all right, we just finished that funeral. You're next. Oof, Lord. The overall coordinator is the so-called Earl Marshal Edward Fitzalan Howard, the Duke of Norfolk. The honor of Earl Marshal is, bizarrely some might say, hereditary and always held by the Duke of Norfolk, the most senior dukedom in the land. Eddie did a bloody good job with the Queen's funeral and the coronation. He's only 67, so he will still be in the job for Charles whenever it happens. And a friend of the Duke's, okay? Not mincing words at all, are we? The possibility that Charles could die in a shorter period of time than widely imagined has not been openly mentioned by the UK press, but has been hinted at in broad terms. One of the most notable of these hints came on February 22nd in the Daily Mail's Ephraim Hardcastle column. Ephraim Hardcastle is a fictional avatar, and the column is written and edited by a revolving cast of Daily Mail journalists, largely based on newsroom gossip. In the column in question, quote, Hardcastle wrote one item about Prince William's plans to make changes to the ascension process and said the prince had initially been advised to wait until after a general election before putting them on a formal footing with potentially a new prime minister. The writer then added, change is in the air, but the pace won't be as leisurely as anticipated a few weeks ago. In the next item, Hardcastle noted that Prince William once described to Tony Blair his destiny as, quote, prison walls. Hardcastle then said they were closing in as his hour approaches. Overall, however, the British press have observed what seems like a remarkable silence on the matter of Charles's health and funeral planning. This is not, as one journalist told the Daily Beast, just out of respect for or collusion with the palace, but rather due to very strict rules and laws in the UK governing medical privacy and the publishing of personal information. Even if you had it copper bottom that he had bladder cancer, you couldn't run it, the journalist said. Some foreign media have also dropped heavy hints. For example, Tina Brown, the founding editor of the Daily Beast, known for her impeccable royal contacts, wrote in the New York Times, the almost simultaneous news of Charles's cancer has put William and Catherine in frightening proximity to ascending the throne just when they had hoped for a span of years to parent their children out of the public eye. The prospect of it, I am told, is causing them intense anxiety. The type of cancer that the king is fighting has not been revealed by the palace, but the regular trips to London for treatment suggest that Charles is receiving radiotherapy. One cancer expert who asked to remain anonymous said, Radiotherapy is conducted using enormous machines as opposed to chemotherapy, which can more or less be done with equipment available at any cottage hospital, although the two therapies can often be used together. As to how Charles is really doing, there has been little in the way of official updates from the palace, but plenty of straws in the wind, most notably the fact that after making a titanic and encouraging effort to greet the public at Easter, shaking hands 56 times and joking and laughing with the crowd outside St. George's Chapel in Windsor, Charles has largely vanished from public view for the 3 weeks since. He has looked gaunt when seen since, when being driven to treatment in London in the ceremonial style vehicle with large windows he has been using to make sure he is seen. More promisingly, he drove to and attended church in Scotland on Sunday. However, it is the big diary dates that will give the most important clues on how his fight against the disease is progressing. One is his official birthday parade known as Trooping the Color on June 15th, which the Ministry of Defense has advertised that he will be present at. Then there have been rumors that he will attend the Royal Ascot Horse Racing Festival later in June, a state visit to Australia, followed by a trip to Samoa for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, due to take place in mid-October, has not yet been canceled. The palace has said planning for his trip continues. Christopher Anderson, the New York Times bestselling royal writer, told the Daily Beast, "It's not just the king who has to review his own funeral plans. Every senior royal does. William and Harry were only teenagers when they were asked to plan their own funerals. Oh! They're asked to pick their own music, flowers, the prayers, and who will read them. Royals are constantly reminded that when they die, they're sent to be a major headline-grabbing event. They can't escape this They can't escape this macabre. They can't escape this macabre fixation on death. King Charles's reign will by definition be short, but it's anyone's guess at this time just how short. In the meantime, the tried and true practice of revising funeral plans should not be used to make that determination. What would be enormously helpful is for the palace to be transparent about the king's condition and his prognosis. Until that happens, gossip and speculation will continue to swirl, and conspiracy theories will abound. That was a very well-written article by Tom Sykes over on the Daily Beast. I wanted to read it in its entirety to make sure that we have 100% context when we discuss what is going on with King Charles. So based off that article that we read together, it seems as though things are not looking that great for King Charles, and that although certain members of the British press might be aware of it, they're not able to be honest on the record when they publish stories about his health because of the UK's strict laws regarding medical privacy. Although the author does not mention it in this article, I feel like this can extend to Kate Middleton, the Princess of Wales. We're all aware that she too was recently diagnosed with cancer, although it seems as though King Charles is currently actively battling cancer that is, very active and rampant in his body. Kate Middleton was a little bit luckier in that she said that cancer had been present in her body, past tense, and that they noticed that when they removed some sort of a sample for a biopsy, and now she was undergoing preventative chemotherapy as if to prevent it from coming back, right? So despite that, we still have seen even less of Kate than we've seen of King Charles, and even less than we've seen of the Queen Elizabeth. Remember, Queen Elizabeth was older than all of these people, and she was working like a dog every day up until pretty much she died. Like 2 days before she passed away, we saw her in a major meeting at the palace as well. We saw her hands were turning purple and everything like that, but that woman was still working. And, like the article mentioned, she died of bone marrow cancer. We didn't know that at the time. We thought it was just old age, but she had been diagnosed with cancer, and we don't even know when she was diagnosed with cancer. But we do know that Queen Elizabeth was such a hard worker. She was always out there, and that's just not what we're seeing currently with the monarch that we've got today, King Charles, although he is making a concerted effort, definitely, and it's not something that we're seeing with Kate Middleton as well. So King Charles, man, I can't imagine that you're prince your entire life. You're finally ready to ascend to the throne. You're 70 years old, which in royal years is pretty okay because these people typically live long. I believe Queen Elizabeth was 96 years old when she passed away, and there have been royals who have made it, even longer than that because these people are eating the best of the best. They're not stressing like regular people, and they've got the best doctors, everything around them to keep them going. So I imagine that King Charles thought, okay, like I'm 70, but I'm still gonna, have a good reign, maybe 26 years like my mother, or something like that. And even Prince Philip, he died like very old as well, So just to hear that there's potential that King Charles doesn't, and I hate to say it, doesn't have much longer due to his own cancer diagnosis, is rather unfortunate because I feel like this is something that he's wanted for a really long time, to be king. And so to be king and to only reign like a year before all of this stuff starts hitting you from left and right, like that's got to be very difficult. And I think that that's why he's making such a huge effort to be as transparent as possible. Remember, we had no idea that Queen Elizabeth was dying of bone marrow cancer. But with King Charles, he was like, listen, I've got cancer. I'm doing this surgery. I'm doing X. I'm doing Y. I'm doing Z. He really changed the game in his transparency and his honesty with his health. And again, by contrast to Kate Middleton, they said, okay, she's doing surgery, but we're not really going to say what for. We're going to say abdominal, but we don't know what for. With King Charles, he said, it's my prostate. There's something there's something in the back end that's not working. But by contrast, when it comes to the actual cancer, he doesn't say what type of cancer it is that he has. And I find that to be a very interesting choice, and I do want to know what you guys think in the comment section. Why would he be so open about having a prostate surgery, but not what sort of cancer he has? All he'll say is that it's not prostate cancer. I felt like, okay, well, if you're going to set a precedent about being very honest about your medical issues and conditions and whatnot, why not go all the way and actually talk about the cancer that you've got? And same thing with Kate. They don't have to, but it is just interesting, especially on King Charles's side, that he made such a big stink about being open with the public and everything like that about his surgery and his health, but not to the end, like only half of it basically. So now we know that there is a name for the eventual passing of King Charles. It's called Operation Menai Bridge, that is being revised consistently because people are very concerned about his health. To us publicly, because we're seeing here, there, and everywhere, we're thinking, okay, he's fine. He's shaking hands with people like at a time where he is immune compromised. Like he must be doing okay, right? Especially at his age. But apparently behind the scenes, it's not the case. Like the Daily Beast talked to people who are in the circle, who are former workers and who are connected to current workers and everything like that. And they're all saying that, listen, it's not looking good. The British press is not going to tell you that because they've got a symbiotic relationship with the palace, which prohibits them from actually being very open about this sort of thing. And, it makes you wonder, what else are they hiding over there? This is a little off topic, but all the deaths going on, like Kate Middleton's sister, Pippa Middleton, her ex-boyfriend, who was married to another royal, he just passed away very suspiciously. They're saying it was a self-inflicted gunshot wound, but I'm not sure about that. And then you've got, there's the two sisters. There's Beatrice and Eugenie. The one with the bigger eyes, she's got like the big doe eyes. Her ex-boyfriend, he just passed away too. He was found in a hotel room and they say that he OD'd. There's just a lot going on, and we're not getting any proper investigation or questions being asked into all of this. And I feel like there's just so much happening at the same time, and it's all looking very, very strange. So I'm really wondering what is going on behind the scenes lately. It feels like there's like a bad omen on the royal family right now, and with their extended friends, families, lovers, whatever you want to call them. Whew. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in, you guys. It truly, truly is. But anyway, listen, I do hope that King Charles recovers. I hope that Kate Middleton recovers. Cancer sucks. And I hate to hear that anybody is battling cancer and dealing with all that comes with it, whether it's the chemotherapy or what have you that they're doing to treat it. It's not easy. And so, yeah, they definitely do deserve our thoughts and our prayers in order to help them move forward along this very difficult journey. Let me know what you thought about this. Again, that article was just so beautifully written. It's on the Daily Beast website. They've got a whole royal section. So definitely feel free to check it out if you are really into royal news and you want to continue to get more updates. Anyway, guys, let me know in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye now.